Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network is a Moonsault Media production and is intended for private use only. For more information, contact retromaniapodcast@gmail.com.
The following recording is a production of Kickin' Out at 2 in conjunction with the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network and is intended for private use only. For more information, head on over to facebook.com/Kickin' Out at 2 or our Twitter handle @Kickin' Out 2, along with searching Retromania with a W on any and all podcast platforms available to listen to archive shows such as this and all the great content of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Evergreen content at your fingertips anytime at your listening pleasure. And with that being said, we thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show.
Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays! From marking out the days, the rebrand season! This is a special Christmas episode! I'm one half of the coasting squad. Kobe Knight, I'm not Santa. I'm joined here with Dave Rosenbluth. Dave, how's it going?
What's up, Kobe Claus? How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm always in the holiday spirit. This is one of my favorite times of the year. From Survivor Series on to the big Christmas Day and then Royal Rumble. I always talk about it. These 3 months are fucking awesome for wrestling nostalgia for me. And what a match we're going to be watching here.
Yeah.
Speaking of.
For those of you that have pressed play, hit the download button, and have tuned in, we are covering the 40th anniversary of the Ric Flair, Kerry, Erich NWA World Heavyweight Championship match from December the 28th, 1982, from World Class Championship Wrestling's Christmas Star Wars event. We thought we'd take a little bit of a different route, a different approach. Usually we cover a lot of WWF, a lot of WCW. We've thrown a little ECW in there, and I thought, why don't we go a different direction and cover a little World Class? And the reason why we're covering this, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it takes place in the month of December. If the show fell on Christmas, the episode aired 3 days after Christmas. But it's also the 40th anniversary of one of the hottest wrestling angles in the history of the business. Not just World Class, but the history of the business, when Michael P.S. Hayes, who was the guest referee in this match, turned on Kerry Von Erich and launched the Freebird Von Erich feud that pretty much set the territory of World Class Championship Wrestling on fire for the next few years. So I thought it would be kind of fun to go back. I've never watched this before. I've watched the clips on the World Class DVD that WWE produced a number of years ago. I've read stories about the angle and how things transpired. So I thought, let's go back and watch it with all of you on the Peacock. Here on Marking Out the Days, the rebrand season for the month of December. Closing out 2022 in style, if you will. In public, if you will. On podcast, if you will.
Yes, indeed. I don't think I've seen this in its entirety either. But a classic feud, a classic angle as well. And just this WCCW is something that, like you said, we haven't really covered. So we're going to have a lot of to talk about here about the what was going on at the time before Black Saturday. An interesting time in the industry as it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is a few years before. What year was Black Saturday? Was that 86?
84.
84. Okay, 84. All right. 82, we're starting to see a little bit of the national expansion, the early stages of it with the World Wrestling Federation. But World Class is rolling. A very hot territory, and we could talk about, you know, the possibility of expansion or not as we watch this. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the early 80s that really, each year it just keeps building and building. And I was born in 83, so I wasn't alive when this match took place, but things I've read over the years is that 82 to 84 really set the table for what would be the big boom in wrestling.
Yes, and more or less television on wrestling on television.
Yes,
and the popularity of it on a national level. We'll get into it more as we go through this match and kind of dissect and divulge things. Have a few lead-ins to. I don't know. I kind of have some comparisons to this time and now what we're experiencing in 2022 as wrestling. So we'll get into that as we get into the match. Do you want to get this going?
Yeah, let's do it. So grab your Peacock, and you're going to click on the WWE Hub, the page, if you will, of Peacock. And then you're going to go to the territory section, and you'll see World Class Championship Wrestling, the logo. There's a couple different World Class events. There's World Class Championship Wrestling. There's World Class Championship Wrestling Star Wars. But you'll go to World Class Championship Wrestling, and you'll go to Season 1, Episode 54, December the 28th, 1992. It runs about 45 minutes. Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship inside a steel cage with Michael P.S. Hayes, Freebird Michael P.S. Hayes, as the guest referee, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy as the gatekeeper. So he's going to be outside the cage, if you will. This episode was aired 3 days after the Christmas Star Wars event. So this episode is solely dedicated to the Flair Kerry Von Erich World Championship match. The episode prior to it, which aired on the 27th of December, shows some highlights from that event, including the Freebirds teaming with David Von Erich to go after the 6-man tag team titles, as well as an 18-man battle royal. So,
some of the preliminary matches from the Star Wars event.
But this is the last episode of the year in 1982, and we'll be watching it with all of you on the Peacock. So, when I say play,
I think we should. I think we should start out with the audio in this one. Bill Mercer introducing us to the show, give that old school vibe feel. Do you want to do the audio, or I can do the audio?
How about you do the audio?
Okay.
All
right.
Is that cool? Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
So, without further ado, in 3, 2, 1, press play.
Tonight, from Reunion Arena in downtown Dallas, Texas, it's World Class Championship Wrestling with Wrestling Star Wars Reunion Arena and the World Heavyweight Championship match featuring the champion, Ric Flair, and the challenger, the uncrowned heavyweight champion of the world, and the modern-day warrior, Kerry Von Erich, challenging for the heavyweight championship. This is a rematch, and the background and the history of this is one of the young All-American boy challenging for that championship that he has been brought up to want for his entire life, the son of Fritz Von Erich, and a family of tremendous wrestling background. And so tonight, here at Reunion Arena, World Class Championship Wrestling brings you the World Heavyweight Championship. Kerry Von Erich challenging Ric Flair.
Woo! And I love that song, too. Brilliant intro there from Bill Mercer, just giving us a little bit of background information on this match. Kerry Von Erich, the uncrowned champion, because his father, Fritz Von Erich, a member of the NWA for a long time, had big-time wrestling, and they had just switched the name over to World Class Championship Wrestling. Mm-hmm. Fritz Von Erich never won the big one, but he wanted one of his boys to. So much so that David, Kevin, Kerry, Mike, even Chris, all got involved in wrestling.
Yeah, there's been stories over the years that have been documented by fans and individuals in the industry alike, as we see clips from a previous Ric Flair, Kerry Von Erich match. I believe this is the 2 out of 3 falls match that led to Kerry getting another opportunity. It's funny because I was just doing some research. This year, in 82, Flair only wrestled like 3 times for World Class. He was the
traveling NW. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the traveling NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And Flair wrestled for World Class, and I believe he wrestled an individual on television by the name of Al Madrid, who was at the time the 14th ranked contender, as well as Kerry in this 2 out of 3 falls match. I'm looking for the research here to see who the third person is. But anyhow, long story short, in storyline, it was Gary Hart, who managed the Great Kabuki, was doing a favor for Ricky Flair, as he would say. And Kabuki had challenged Kerry Von Erich prior to the cage match to kind of soften him up for Ric Flair. But an event in Oklahoma. Now, here's another interesting fact about this rivalry in this match.
Well, let me elaborate just a little.
Okay.
Gary Hart, Ric Flair put a bounty out on Kerry Von Erich.
Yep.
And Kabuki and Magic Dragon and Gary Hart would all come after Kerry Von Erich, and he would have to fight them off with the helps of his brothers. And it's so funny that later this would happen to Ric Flair leading up to the original Starrcade.
Yes. And it's funny, too, because as I was doing my research, I guess earlier in the year in Florida, they ran a similar angle with Flair and Butch Reed, the bounty angle. So it was a very popular. I mean, and it's funny too because territories, the advent of cable wasn't a thing in '82, and so being able to run these successful angles in the different territories was it was kind of neat that like this region had never seen anything like this before, but they ran the same exact angle in a different region in a different territory. So it was like working a fresh audience. But, Gary Hart's H&H Enterprises would become a surrogate in the territory of Dallas, doing Flair's dirty work, heading into the match with Kerry Von Erich inside the steel cage.
Yeah, I mean, talk about forbidden door, quote unquote. You have this company called WCCW, and then the NWA champion who's traveling comes around. It's very similar to what we seen recently with AEW, ROH. NWA was involved briefly with AEW at the beginning. What are your thoughts on NWA's standing now in 2022 compared to '82? They're losing grasp of the wrestling business, so to say, because everybody's got their own promotions.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't watch a lot of NWA. I'll catch clips here and there. I actually had this discussion with someone else recently after watching the clip of Tyrus Funkasaurus, his second rope. Yeah, jump off the second rope and his very anticlimactic landing, very safe landing, I should say. Anyhow. I don't watch a lot of NWA, so I really don't know. Throughout the course of the last year or so, it seems like they've become the victim of, talent departures. Guys, I mean, it's a young upstart promotion. Billy Corgan's investing his own money into building it, and he manages to, so far I think he's done a pretty solid job with getting them some kind of streaming service with Fight TV. They're all over YouTube. It's giving guys opportunities, but it's I would imagine it's not paying a whole lot to the talents involved. And he's been publicly a big proponent on working with everyone. He's worked with AEW. He's worked with Ring of Honor briefly before they shut down. I believe Billy Corgan also. He's even expressed interest working with WWE because Corgan's got something that WWE doesn't have, and that's the some of the contents of the NWA library that I believe the Savoldi.
Yes,
I believe he bought that footage from the Savoldi family, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know
Correct.
exactly what territory it was, but he's got some footage that's not on the network, the Peacock, if you will. As we see Ric Flair making his way down to the ring inside the cage, getting ready to square off. Defend the NWA World Title, but with the possible exit of Nick Aldis at the end of this month in December, they're surviving. But I don't find. I mean, there's nothing that comes out at me that grabs me, and I'm like, ooh, I got to check this out. The last time I felt that way about NWA was when Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder, won the NWA World Title. Because to me, this year, in the last year or so, he's been on fire. He's been on a roll. When it comes to his character progression and how he's been able to take his brand and move it around the indies. He's been the antithesis of hardcore wrestling fans, and I don't mean hardcore diehard wrestling fans. I mean hardcore as in like blood and guts type wrestling fans. With GCW, and he's managed to take that persona and he transformed it into a run as the NWA World Champion, which I thought was genius. And unfortunately, he got hurt and had to drop the title, and I feel like the NWA has been trying to play catch up ever since. With Trevor Murdoch, and now Tyrus is the champion. I think Aldis, was involved in the title picture. They're not the same. I get they're trying to hold on to the lineage, but while at the same time trying to progress. They're a throwback, but there's nothing that I've heard, that I've read, because I'll read about angles that they're doing. I don't follow a lot, but I'll read about stuff, but nothing like comes out at me and I'm like, I gotta watch this.
No, I think to your point, the last good little bit of relevancy that they had was Matt Cardona winning that title, but then he was sidelined with an injury. And I think they just have a lot of setbacks, and some of the stuff is too little too late. Nick Aldis, that run was great. Some good matches with Cody, trading the belt back there. But then, after Cardona gets sidelined, I think he was going to be like they were going to put a rocket behind him and have some good storylines going or progressing, and he could put on some great matches and maybe even bring that NWA title to GCW and get some exposure there or some working agreements there. But Trevor Murdoch winning the title, good for him. Not my favorite, my favorite choice, but they had to do what they had to do. I think Nick Aldis, in his most recent interview, just puts it correctly. It doesn't pass the Harley race test, dog.
Yeah.
There is no validity to this version of NWA compared to what we see right now with NWA. It doesn't feel as grand with the 10 pounds of gold, because those 10 pounds of gold episodes on YouTube were really good.
Yeah.
It really got me behind James Storm, a guy who I particularly never liked, but I was like, wow, he's good. And Eli Drake, another name that shined in NWA when he got some promo time, who has now been acquired by WWE. So I think
LA Knight.
these guys get this shine and this exposure, but it's not enough, and then they get picked up for bigger and better paydays. If Nick Aldis were to go to WWE, kudos to him. I could definitely see him and Drew McIntyre. I can see him and Sheamus. I can see him and anyone, really.
Yeah, he's a
great.
throwback. He's a throwback that I think would fit well in that in the WWE environment currently, because I think Triple H understands and respects the tradition of wrestling. I don't think he would be as successful in AEW, and that's not because of his talent skill. I think it's the fact that someone chastised me recently on the internet for being so negative about AEW, but they have a crowded roster, overcrowded guys that have all the talent in the world are hardly on TV. I mean, I had this conversation with my brother recently. Give me FTR, Andrade, Miro, Aleister Black, and give me those guys and Keith Lee, and they could all go back to WWE, and I think they would be better served going back there under the Triple H regime, as opposed to what they're doing currently in AEW. But this isn't, I didn't really want to get too far down the weeds when it came to AEW, as we see the matches just getting underway. We got two referees in there, which is weird. Michael Hayes with no shirt on and acid-washed mom jeans. And then you got Terry Gordy on the outside as the gatekeeper. David Manning is the official in the match.
This is interesting. The two referees, the enforcer, and the Freebirds were faces at the time, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they Michael Hayes arrived in October, and he debuted and made short work of the lower card heel Tom Renesto. Then he had promised that he had friends on the way. that were going to back up the Von Erichs. So they had an alliance with the Von Erichs on television. But Hayes and Gordy were, it slowly trickled in Gordy and then eventually Buddy Roberts. They were a big act in Mid-South. Huge act as a three-man team in Mid-South. And they brought them in as baby faces to kind of set the table for their rivalry with the Von Erichs. Show that they needed a reason for them to wrestle the Von Erichs, and then befriending them and then turning on them because of this, I think, was a perfect opportunity. And it obviously worked because it set that territory on fire. I believe Michael Hayes and Flair had a previous feud as well. So there was some, or a previous match, maybe. Yeah,
maybe
I
that
don't
comes.
know. I don't think it was on World Class though. I think it might have been.
No, I know,
like a Mid-South match. But throughout the course of this storyline, heading into this match in the fall, Fritz was on TV for a little bit, and he and the rest of the boys claimed to have truth behind the theory that Gary Hart was the one that had been paying Ric Flair to eliminate Kerry. During a heated interview segment, Fritz produced a copy of a check written from Gary Hart for services and expenses.
Surprised he didn't forge it and cash himself. Fucking money hungry motherfucker. Okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. And then I believe during this rivalry too, they would introduce King Kong Bundy as a protege to Gary Hart as well, who was kind of doing the bidding for Flair. He was the big heater, if you will, as a part of H&H Enterprises for Gary Hart. And mind you, I'm reading all this based on things that had transpired. I didn't witness this live. Obviously, I was not born. I was not a. Actually, wait a minute. Let me think. December '82. I was born January '83. So yeah, I was. My mother was 8 months pregnant. Almost 9 months pregnant, going on 9 months with me as this. So I was ready to pop out of the womb. Well, wow. as this match had taken place. So January.
Wow, good thing Terry Gordy.
I was born.
Good thing Terry Gordy or Michael Hayes wasn't your doctor. They would have slammed the gate on you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Ba-dum-ching. But this is, I believe, this is the second run for Flair as champion.
No. This is the first. Or wait a minute.
Oh, this is the first.
Yeah, this is the first. And I believe this is
because he wins it as a face and then he turns into a heel.
Yeah, he beat Dusty in Kansas City, which Flair has gone on record to say that was one of the worst matches ever. It was an NWA politics thing. Him getting the title, he didn't like the match, and he doesn't talk about it in high regard. Although, as the traveling NWA champ, he had done pretty good business in different territories between Mid-South as well as Dallas this year in '82. But it wouldn't be till the following year, about 11 months later, where his career really started to take off after defeating Harley Race in '83 at Starrcade.
Yes. He gets turned face, and then
in a bounty hunter angle.
They put a bounty out on him. What's his name?
Harley Race.
Damn it, Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine and Bob Orton. Are of the likes that go after Ric Flair.
Are you sure about that? Because Piper and Valentine were in a heated rivalry going into that Starrcade.
Piper eventually turned face, but
he did.
At the beginning. But it was Valentine and
I know Bob Orton and Dick Slater were like
Dick Slater as well. Yes,
main culprits heading into the angle. But I had no idea that Valentine and Piper had involvement in it either.
Yeah, I think because Valentine and Flair were former tag team partners, and there was some history there between them.
The plane crash too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
With Johnny Valentine.
It's crazy because these guys are blowing up on the scene, but for the past almost 5 to 6 years, even more for Flair, these guys have been traveling and doing live shows and going through the territories and getting noticed in certain TV markets that were just isolated. So national stars here finally getting that big exposure that they want.
Yeah.
This is the boom period, man.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
This is the beginning stages. I mean, it was Harley Race told a great. I listened to an interview once, a shoot interview with Harley Race, where there was a great story he told about meeting Vince McMahon shortly before the Starrcade match. There was some behind the scenes, backstage politics between himself and the NWA regarding the champion being a focal point of Harley's territory going forward. And back then there was no contracts. Everybody worked on a handshake. And so, there was no internet back then. There was no there was no text messaging, nothing like that. So Harley had set up a meeting with Vince Jr. And this was right around the time where Vince Jr. was looking to make, he was in the process of expanding. And he was looking
I want to buy your TV time, pal.
Oh, no. He wanted Harley Race to take the NWA World title and show up on WWF TV. And
that's right.
They had a meeting at a restaurant in Stamford, and they went into the bathroom at this restaurant. And Vince offered him, $750,000, $750,000 to join the World Wrestling Federation, bring the NWA World title, and pretty much dismantle the NWA in one fell swoop. And Harley Race looked at him in the mirror of this bathroom and said, if I make that choice, there's one person. He says to Vince, what do you see in the mirror? And Vince says, I see two men conducting business. And Harley Race goes, yeah, well, I got to look at one of them in the mirror if I make that decision. And he politely declined. And he went about his way and traveled from Connecticut all the way to Greensboro, North Carolina for the Starrcade match. And there was questions regarding if he was going to make it to Starrcade that night because, like I said, the word got out after a couple of days that Harley met with Vince. And so, like I said, there's no cell phones, there's no text messaging in '83, and Harley Race showed up probably about the third or fourth match into Starrcade and kicked everybody out of the locker room and looked at Flair and said, I'm here for you, kid. I'm doing business. And that was the end of it. And that's when we saw Ric Flair christened as the flagship, the face of the National Wrestling Alliance following that steel cage match with him at Starrcade.
So in a roundabout way, Vince McMahon has taken over the wrestling business and, as innovative as he was at this time, he had some ruthless business tactics. Mm-hmm. He essentially created that Ric Flair moment with Harley Race, wanting to put Ric Flair over and stand by the NWA for the first Starrcade.
Yep.
And then later, when he purchases GCW in the time slot in 1984, the following year when WrestleMania is launched, there's a group that is kind of forced to be put together when Ole Anderson and Gene and Ric Flair and J.J. Dillon form the Four Horsemen. So in a roundabout way, like Vince McMahon is kind of doing this stuff, but still elevating the other competition because Ric Flair and
indirectly
the NWA
his actions
stuff
have caused. Indirectly,
Correct.
His actions have caused. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe Gene was a part of that.
No, it was Ole,
Arn, Flair, and Tully.
Yes.
Yeah,
but I think Gene. I'm sorry. I don't want to speak without fully knowing. I think Gene was involved at first, and then Ole kicked him to the curb. Or no, they kicked Ole to the curb later.
But as to the best of my recollection, Gene was never a horseman, unless it was unless it's something that was done at a TV or on a live event, and then it quickly it quickly changed. But not to cut you off here, I do want to make mention as we're watching this match.
What's our timestamp?
Currently, we are at 22 minutes and 41 seconds of this 45-minute encounter here. But I want to make mention that I found interesting with Hayes in the ring as the other referee. When Von Erich went for the cover a couple of times, both referees went down to make the cover, which I thought was interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And
both
they were in
seemed
sync.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. They were both in sync. What I found really interesting was Hayes was checking the shoulders, whereas the other referee, David Manning, was not. Something I just found rather particular and interesting. But
well, because I know how to wrestle, he don't know how to wrestle.
Come on, Bam.
And he hardly even knows how to book.
Yeah, he don't.
I know how to book. Oh, good Lord! Look at that blade job there. And something I want to point out. I did kind of notice Flair doing the blade job. That's only because I know, but it wasn't as fucking obvious as we see nowadays.
Oh yeah,
John Moxley, I'm looking at you. I can fucking see you grabbing your wrist tape and blading right in front of the camera. Why do they like the illusion of wrestling at this time was so much better. Like
yeah.
I know we know that they blade or they're playing an injury to the utmost, but like let's let it be organic, not like this. I don't know. I don't like the oh, we know, so what, who cares? He's blading. It's like, what the fuck? I know.
Yeah.
Like I can't get behind it.
No, I'm with you there.
It makes me really fall out of the suspension of disbelief that I loved about wrestling.
I mean, you'll if you go back and you watch older stuff, you'll be able to find, like, if you're looking for it, if you know that it happened, you'll be able to find it. You'll see the referee slip it, or the guy will have his face down on the mat.
Yeah, but at least there's some discretionary.
Pull it out
yeah,
from
but
under
at
his
least
tongue.
they have some discretion there.
Oh, I get
it's
you.
Not just right in front of your fucking face.
Yeah, I get you. The production behind it, and I think that's a lot of the reasons why they don't do it anymore. Not just because of the health and safety concerns, but because I don't think there's a way they can produce it without the illusion anymore. Unless you are so obvious, a guy gets hit in the head with a chair, he rolls out to the floor and he goes under the fucking ring, because we've seen that before, which isn't terrible, but we get it. We know what we're doing. But Flair definitely got a gusher in this one.
Okay, next question. Do you think it was too little too late with Kerry Von Erich finally becoming the world champion after his brother's unfortunate passing in 1984?
I can't, because I wasn't watching wrestling then. I was 1 year old. I can't really say from that perspective then. But
do you think they gave him the title out of sympathy, or
yes,
like
100%, 100%, because they needed a feel good moment, which it worked, and I don't begrudge them for doing that at all. I have no issue with it whatsoever. Because
it worked, and then we had that show to honor him, and then when my other son died, we made some more money off that one too.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the Iron Claw movie?
I am. I'd like to see. Yeah, I definitely am. I am.
It's gonna be. It's got to be one of the darkest stories in professional wrestling, minus Chris Benoit.
Yeah,
but it is one of the most I guess thematic events that could be told.
Yeah, the world class story has been told for decades. I mean, it's the promotion that could have been.
But with A24 production and some good actors in there, and MJF signed on to be Lance Von Erich.
Yeah, which I was kind of, you know what? I mean, he does have that look to be Lance, but at the same time, I was kind of hoping he'd pull off the Gino Hernandez. Because he's such a good bad guy, and Gino Hernandez was such a great bad guy back during those days in World Class. But let's talk about what could have been with World Class. You and I could probably both agree that Fritz and the family dynamic really was a detriment to the promotion.
Well,
True or
at
false?
first it was
long term speaking.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I
Yep.
mean, at first these were like small studio shows where the getting to know those wrestlers and having that following, you felt like you were part of the family.
Yep.
And they were over like Rover in Texas.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling they are still over in Texas.
Yep.
But
When WrestleMania was in Dallas in 2016, my brother attended that event, and he was at the hotel, and he managed to grab a local newspaper, and they had a feature on the Von Erichs and their impact in wrestling to coincide with WrestleMania being in Dallas. That was in 2016, I believe, when he attended. So the mark they have on the area still exists to this day. But what I meant by like the long-term hindrance of the promotion, yes, they were over like Rover. Yes, they were essentially like they were the equivalent of like a high school football team, a successful high school football team. You know, they were like all the Von Erich boys were like the star quarterback or the star running back.
successful college team.
Yeah, well, even that too. Yeah, you could make an argument. Yeah, regionally they were the locals. They were the hometown boys,
Yes.
and I think because they presented that family dynamic so well on television, and because they were local, it hit so much more with the audience. And even when their deaths took place, you know, like you said, you watched the show, you felt like you were part of the family. Well, you felt like you lost a family member when David Von Erich had tragically passed away in '84. But the long-term hindrance of the promotion, I think, was the family dynamic. And many can argue.
That and the change in the cable stuff.
Well, I was
man.
I was gonna get to that point. Is that they had chances to expand because they were so hot and go outside of their territory, and Fritz refused to do it. He wanted to stay within Dallas.
They withdrew from the NWA in 1986.
Yep.
At a time when you're getting AWA, NWA, WWF, all these different wrestling programs on television. I think they were ran thin with the overhead and the lack of talent that they were able to use because of this big buyout from Vince McMahon and Jim Crockett Promotions. Those guys had money to spend on wrestlers that wanted that exposure. And this being a regional territory considered, they stuck with guys like Brian Adias or Mike Von Erich.
Yep.
One man gang got a run there, but Dingo Warrior, but he was green as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was again too little, too late.
If they expanded, if they expanded and the money came in as many expected it to, they would have been able to compete. And I'm not saying they would have lasted forever, but they would have been able to compete. They would have been.
Yeah, and then there's the motorcycle accident with Kerry Von Erich in '86.
Yep.
I mean, just one thing after the next, it was snowballing, which is why that movie is going to be so interesting.
Here we see some tension now with Hayes and Von Erich.
He had his foot on the rope,
Yep.
the boot on the rope. He's not defending Flair.
Now
He's being real. I like that though. He was calling it down the middle, and then here we get the infamous spot. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It looks like they kind of fucked it up there a little bit. Hayes.
No, it's coming next.
It's coming next. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're building up to it. They're kind of giving us a tease. That was a little bit of foreshadowing. It's like Terry Gordy's going to open the cage for him.
Yep. And you see Hayes is trying to. Hayes is now more involved. The other referee's just kind of there.
Yeah.
But Hayes has really gotten himself involved, like almost too much. Like now it's becoming a distraction.
Right. And now he's hot.
Boom!
Now I'm mad.
Right hand to Flair, shoves the other referee, and he's like, "Get him, put the cover on. I'll count it. What are you doing?" You know? And Kerry don't want to win it that way because that's the Texas thing to do.
Oh, Gordy got the door open. We're getting ready.
Shoves him again. And now he's leaving.
Wow.
He's like, fuck this. I'm out of here.
I tried to help you. You didn't
Don't
want
be
to do
asking
it
me
the
for no
Freebird
extra-
way.
Don't be asking me for no extra pills later. Oh, boom.
I like that. Oh, God, that looks solid. And we see the blade job.
Yep. See, now because we're
Wow.
looking for it.
That looked brutal, though.
Yes. Yes.
Worse than when, I don't know, Flair getting his head smashed by Perfect years later was pretty brutal, too.
That was,
In
too.
the
But
steel cage.
actually, you know, I just watched that recently. They had a stopper on the door for that.
Oh,
They
fuck.
like-
Well, that looked good, really. Oh,
Yes.
Michael Hayes counting that extra count there, 3.
Yeah.
Raising the hand of David Manning calling the match off. So another schmaz finish, dusty finish, if you will.
But look at, you know what? I want you to take a look at something. Look at the audience. Look how fucking
they are in arms.
Look how hot they are over that finish. Like that's, like I said, it's a testament to how those boys were portrayed to them, and the fact that they were locals. It made you feel like you were, like you were part of that family, like you were robbed of something. You know what I mean? Like you see a couple of guys in the front row really giving it to Hayes and Gordy as they were walking out.
That is something that still does exist with local promotions. You get a couple of people that constantly go to weekly shows and they just get behind the homegrown talent there. Mm-hmm. MCW was a place like that. And Austin Theory, he was pretty over in MCW. And, I mean, it's just amazing to see that I saw him at a homegrown level, like coming up, and then now just to see him on the big stage, it's crazy.
Yeah. I've been to a few indie shows locally in Connecticut, Northeast Wrestling being the big promotion locally in the Connecticut, New York, upstate New York area. And, I've been to a couple of shows, and they got, the people are still behind the locals, they still get engaged. And I think that's a good thing. It's not just, a bunch of young smart mark fans trying to call out the magician on stage for the magic.
That shows you that the art of wrestling is still alive and well.
Oh yeah, 100%. People want to be engaged. People want to cheer and boo. Some want to cheer and boo who they like, but some people just want to get caught up in it without having to read all the bullshit online. So
that's how I am at this point. I've kind of stayed away from rumors and things like that. But most of the year that we've seen in 2022 has all been backstage things that are bigger than what was on TV.
Yep.
Minus the changing guard of Triple H booking rather than Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
But we see the end of this match coming here where it looks like Kerry Von Erich can finally get the victory. The Freebirds have left. Dave Manning has continued the match. There wasn't a fall made. Do you like steel cage matches where they have to pin each other or they have to escape? Or what are your preferences? Wow, David Manning calling the match there. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, he just called the match there. Kerry's unresponsive. I don't know why he's calling the match. Here's the funny part about this. He's calling the match because Kerry's unresponsive, but Flair's been bleeding buckets for the last 20 minutes. And he didn't call it then.
And this is something that would happen with Kerry Von Erich and Jerry Lawler too. Not necessarily unresponsive, but I never really liked the blood or you can't respond. And clearly they can, or the other person is more beat up angle. Like we saw the match stoppage with John Moxley and Hangman Adam Page, that was something necessary, and I thought maybe this is
legit.
part of the storyline.
Yeah,
but that was legit. So
yeah. As far as your question, it all depends on the context of the story. You know, like I brought this point up a while back. There was a cage match in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and it was following a match they had at WrestleMania where Brock just pretty much smothered Reigns, and I thought to myself, well, Brock Lesnar isn't the type of character where he's going to escape from a fight. He's going to exit the cage. So there has to be some kind of decisive finish with Brock and Roman. And they went with the spear through the cage, almost a Dusty-like finish where Brock, his feet hit first. So it kind of saved face for Brock's character that he didn't have to get pinned, and Roman was made into a monster as we see the Von Erich boys coming in to tend to Kerry. And this would be off.
Kevin Von Erich stormed in the ring, took his shirt off like he was going to fight somebody. There's nobody to fight in the ring.
Yeah, then shut the door. I want some privacy while I check on my brother with my shirt off and no shoes on.
And no fucking shoes. That's so awkward. I do not like the non-wrestling boots. It just makes me uncomfortable.
Like, if you're a chicken shit heel in a cage match, the escape route thing works. Because if you're a fucking if you're dodging a fight and it's settled in a cage, then yes, the escape route works. But if it's two guys that are settling their differences in a cage and it's all about who's the better man, then it should be a pinfall
submission. Yeah. And I get the usage of having a top like Bad Blood, the Hell in the Cell. That was the perfect storyline to have that match set up. But yeah, just to have it just doesn't make sense.
No.
I think there's a lot of things in wrestling that are just hot-shotted now all the time. We get casket matches out of nowhere. It's just like, I don't know. There's a lot that's missing from the dance, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This is making the fans really suspend their disbelief.
Yep.
Is he okay?
Yeah. They bring a doctor in the ring.
Again, at the time, though, I mean, I don't know if this many people know, but like, people thought this shit was real, too.
Yes.
Still.
Yes. It wasn't, it was, the business was protected. The business was protected. I mean, you see the crowd. Look at them. They're clapping as they're escorting him out, like it would be in a sporting event when a guy's injured and they take him off the field or off the court.
And they're not doing it in an ironic way.
No,
trying to just be on TV and stand in front of Dave the entire TV taping.
Yeah, but we got about 5 minutes left in this watch along here. I want to ask you the question. We've kind of danced around it a little bit in this watch along, but the downfall of the promotion. You've said it had a lot to do with the landscape of wrestling. I think a big part of not expanding was part of that. There was a lot out there for the wrestling eye to see, the wrestling fans and their wrestling eyes. But do you think that they ran too long with the Von Erichs, like in the promotion as like the main focal point? Because I feel like that the Fritz had pushed those boys to be the golden goose
to suicide.
Oh. Well, I mean, all of them. Well, not all of them, but they had all died prematurely.
Yeah, I pushed them to death. Oh God, sorry. Yeah, he pushed them too hard, and like I said earlier, I think it was too little, too late. If you would have had Kerry Von Erich step away with the title around this time and maybe carry it for 6 months, and then probably lose it back, you might have had some pop behind WCCW. But the years after trying to catch up with that, they were just floundering.
Yeah,
and then things snowballed with bad luck or unfortunate deaths and substance abuse.
Yeah, it was unfortunate.
What say you?
All the way around. Yeah, I mean, I think those boys were pushed too hard. I think there was a lot of pressure on them from their father to be the stars and the main attraction. And Fritz, being a stubborn old man, he didn't want to evolve with the times. I think a lot. Honestly, I've said this, and it's to me, I think it's a theory that hasn't been addressed enough. But I think a lot of the rift between the family, the boys, and Fritz didn't so much have to do with their performances, but with their philosophies on expanding. Fritz didn't want to expand. He wanted to stay local because he knew, he had a good thing locally. He didn't want to take a chance. Even though their show was pirated out of the Middle East, he didn't want to take a chance. And I think the boys wanted the expansion because they knew it was gonna be more opportunities for the company and more opportunities financially for them. And Fritz kind of put the kibosh on that, and I think there was a lot of tension between them over that.
I agree, and I think there has been talks of essentially, promoters back in the day, they did make a lot of money. But a lot of the times, they were robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
So to make that jump would mean that Von Erich could not fill his pockets to do whatever else he, does on a smaller scale, regional scale.
Yep.
And a lot of that had to do with Jim Barnett losing GCW as well. So this time period, I think, from the 70s to that early 80s, these smaller promotions or territories, if you will, got a lot of money floating around.
Yep.
So to make it official means you'll be losing or be accountable for a lot of that money. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying. As we close out this watch along here, this was interesting, different. First time I saw this for the very first time.
Same here.
And
I did like the aspect of Michael P.S. Hayes in the match.
I did too.
And the referee, for some reason, as odd as it was, it worked.
Yeah. And look what it did. It launched one of the hottest angles in wrestling history. I mean, I wasn't alive when it was, when this angle had transpired. And I didn't really get access to the Freebirds till probably the magazines in like 86, 87, the After Mags. Same thing with the Von Erichs too. But I've gone back and watched some stuff over the years of their classic rivalry, and it definitely stands the test of time. And this was the launch of it from this match moving forward. Yeah,
for sure. That was a fun little watch along, and I mean, wow, so many years later, the anniversary of it as we're doing it, still a hot little feud, and to have that match on Christmas, wow.
Yeah.
People opened up presents and then got another surprise gift.
Yes.
That's so cool.
That would have been kind of a cool era to live through, where like you go to you have Christmas or Thanksgiving, like even like with Survivor Series too. You have a holiday, you spend it with your family, and then you head out in the early afternoon to the arena to go and watch wrestling. That would be kind of cool to live through. Nowadays, like it's kind of hard because you don't really see
life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Life is honestly overbooked, pal.
Yes, I don't think you could put wrestling on a holiday because I don't think it would draw really well. I really don't.
No, I think back in the day, like we said, these people had more of a personal relationship with these territories. So, and it was kind of like a thing that people did. They didn't like watch wrestling on TV. They just went to the show every Friday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that aspect.
Yes,
a lost aspect.
Same here. I agree. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode, and
we won't be kicking out at 2. We won't be putting this down for the count. We'll be slamming the cage door closed on it.
We will. Yes, we definitely will, and we'll be back in the new year with some more content, courtesy of Kobe and myself for marking out the days. Not sure what kind of ideas we're gonna have, what kind of concept we're gonna have, but we're definitely gonna be brainstorming and coming up with different ideas as to how we're going to present wrestling content, historical wrestling content, to all of you through the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. So, Kobe, I think it's time we slam that cage door shut.
All right, dude. Thank you, everybody.